My man Jai Opetaia was in a pretty tough fight. I told you guys that this guy Glanton was, or Glanton, however you want to pronounce it. You know me, I murder names. Brandon Glanton was a tough character, and he certainly proved it on Sunday night. But the technical skill of Opetaia was just a little too much, and he won a unanimous decision. He improved to 30 wins, no losses, 23 coming by knockout. Glanton drops to 21-3 with 18 knockouts. I'll tell you something. You know, Glanton was saying before this fight, you're gonna know who I am. I'm gonna get a lot of respect after this fight. He got respect from me. I'd like to see him again. Not that he put on some kind of great performance, but he stayed on his feet for 12 rounds against Jai Opetaia, which, in my opinion, in the cruiserweight division, is pretty good. Jai Opetaia won the very first Zuffa Boxing world title. He's now the Zuffa Boxing, and temporarily, I guess, I don't know, I'm going to be talking about that fight. That's another side fight that Jai Opetaia is having with the IBF, who, according to Team Opetaia, at the last minute told him he wasn't fighting for it, but the IBF has a different version of the story, blah, blah, blah. But anyway, Opetaia took home the first Zuffa Boxing belt. I thought this fight was okay at the end. All three judges scored the fight the same, 119-106. Crazy score. Well, that's because of the crazy-ass judge that was judging this fight. The referee who was refereeing this fight. What a nutcase. I'll get to that in a second. Let me just go through some other fights that were on this card. And, of course, I'm going to give Zuffa Boxing another attaboy because I love the card. In a 10-round welterweight fight, Ricardo Salas improved to 23-2 with a couple of draws, with 17 knockouts when he stopped his opponent, Jesus Sachero, in the eighth round. Sachero drops to 16-2 with a couple of draws and 12 of his wins coming by knockout. In a really entertaining fight, excuse me, Pablo Rubio took care of his opponent, and Adrian Palmera was he lost a unanimous decision against Rubio. Rubio improves. The judges scored at 77-73, and two of them, and one judge had it 76-74. Rubio moves to 15-0 with 5 knockouts. Palmera drops his first loss of his career, 14-1 now with 9 knockouts. There was a good fight between Vlad Panin and Shinard Bunch. The Palin moved to 24-2 with 15 knockouts by winning that fight. Bunch drops to his fourth fight of his career, 22-4 with a draw, and 18 of his wins coming by knockout. In the heavyweight division, Joshua Juarez took Jardy Anderson through 8 rounds. The weighted judges scored at 79-73, 78-74, 77-75, all for Juarez. He's still undefeated at 15-0 with 9 knockouts. Anderson drops his second fight of his career, 11-2 with 9 knockouts. In the featherweight division, Ethan Ramos and Jacob Perez put on a pretty entertaining fight. At the end, it was a majority draw. One judge had a 57-55 for Ramos, and twice 56-56 as a draw. Perez now 8-0 with a draw and 3 knockouts, and Ramos goes to 4-1 with a draw and 1 knockout. There was a couple of other exciting fights on this card as well. You know, here's my thoughts on the card. First and foremost, I thought that Zuffa Boxing once again came through. I mean, I loved the card. Look, I was telling you guys about what we were going to see with this, all right? And we're seeing it. We're seeing entertaining fights. We may not know. Listen, I'll be honest. I wasn't as familiar with, especially these guys that, you know, had 8 fights or less. I wasn't as familiar with them. But this is the kind of these are the kinds of fights you need to watch. You need to watch young fighters climbing the ladder, fighting against other fighters that are similar. No more cherry picking, no more, hiding and maintaining let them fight each other, because even in a loss, if they perform well, they're going to gain some fanfare. And the one thing that I believe that Zuffa Boxing is going to give these fighters, especially the young ones, no, Sean, my man Sean saying, is Oscar still fighting? No, he's not fighting. It's a lawsuit. It's a lawsuit that I was talking about. But one thing about this Zuffa Boxing that I really enjoy is the entertaining fights. And at the end of the day, boys and girls, isn't boxing? It's a form of entertainment. Yes, the athletes, they work very hard. They deserve as much money as they possibly can get. But at the end of the day, it's entertainment. And part of my main topic today is unity. And when I say unity in boxing, I want to see all these fighters in one pool to be competing against each other. And then the best will truly rise to the top. I'll get to that in a second. But my thoughts on the broadcast, and the reason why I'm breaking down these broadcasts is because it's kind of new. Zuffa Boxing, it's on Paramount. First and foremost, I got 6 points I want to make. First and foremost, Sundays, very, very bad. I don't like the fights on Sundays, especially at night. I like to be in my feety pajamas early on, especially on Sundays. But luckily, the Paramount platform lets you watch the replay. So when I wake up, at the crack of 3 a.m., I get to watch the fight as if it's live. And the thing I did like a little better about Paramount, to be honest, is they showed a fight. I didn't have to watch all the other bullshit, all of the ring walks and all the little stories beforehand that I already know, so I got to watch the fight, the every round, bang. It was great. I didn't like that I didn't get to see some of the other fights, the undercard. I had to search for those later on, but I would have liked to have seen, the whole card, just the fights like they did without all the BS. I don't like Sundays. Dana, if you're listening, try to move them to Fridays. I know you got your UFC on Saturdays. I think this would be great. There's Zuffa Boxing on Paramount on Friday nights. Remember, we used to have something called Friday Night Fights, and Friday Night Fights used to be great. I used to love it. I love Tuesday Night Fights too, but the point is that Friday Night Fights, it's like it kicks off the weekend, and especially if you see an entertaining card like we saw, on Sunday, that it would be great. Listen, Dana, if you're watching, if you're listening, if somebody is watching or listening, give Dana a call. Tell him Friday nights will work a lot better. The commentating team, Joe Tessitore, Max Kellerman, Andre Ward. Look, Joe Tessitore, I said this before. Joe Tessitore can call a football game better than anybody you've ever seen, especially college, okay? Boy, does he call a great game. Boxing, he used to be better than he is now. Now he's hard to listen to sometimes. Max Kellerman, he's a knowledgeable guy. But you got Andre Ward. So, the thing is Max Kellerman is talking about things that Andre Ward should be talking about, and they kind of talk over each other. There was one point where Max was talking about footwork and, being the guy who gets the lead foot and spending all his time, like he's the fighter. I think Andre Ward should get those things, and Max Kellerman should analyze other aspects of the fight. One other thing, they didn't shut up, boys and girls. Joe Tessitore, Max Kellerman, and Andre Ward did not shut up for 1 second of every round. They talked and talked and talked. I don't know about you, but I kind of want to watch the friggin' fight. I don't want to watch. And not only that, here's two, they were talking about the punch stats so quickly into this fight. It's like, is that's what's happened to you guys, the boxing audience? Are you that unknowledgeable of the sport that you need somebody to tell you exactly what's happening every second of 3-minute rounds? I mean, If you haven't seen it, they did not shut up. I kid you not. Now, I've had producers tell me while I'm doing broadcast live, events, got to keep talking. You got to keep talking. I listen, I understand that you don't want dead air, but there's a time to let the fans watch what's happening. That's why I loved Nick Charles. Nick Charles is one of the best boxing announcers ever. And he used to say, we lost him too early, unfortunately, but he said, the secret to calling boxing is call the action that's in front of you. These guys were just dragging it out. Then here's another thing I didn't like. They were actually showing replays during the round. So you're watching the fight, and all of a sudden, here's that punch. It's down in the left-hand part of the screen. So what do? You look down there at the replay and you miss something on the live action? I don't know if I like that. I like watching the replays right after the round when they're in their corners. They're getting instructions, they're getting water, whatever they're doing in their corner. That's the time to make some comments about the round. That's the time to talk about the replays and good punches that landed, or if there was a knockdown or what have you. That's the time to do it, not during the fight, in my opinion. The punch stats, listen, I complain about this. They all do it. I just don't get Coach is saying I envisioned you turning the sound off. I almost did, but I was trying to evaluate it, but I hung in there, Coach. I hung in there. The punch stats, look, boys and girls, it's not statistics. We talk about this all the time. It's guys that it's opinionated. It's subjective. You and me and Joe Schmo can be sitting ringside. We could even be sitting next to each other and watch a punch that gets thrown. And I could say it landed flush. The one guy could say it missed. The other one could say it grazed him, defensive move. I mean, that's just the angle that you're watching the fight. So to suggest that two guys, and that's how it works, two guys, if you're lucky, one guy's got the red corner, one guy's got the blue corner, and they're counting the punches. They're also scoring what they believe is a power punch or a jab. And one of the things that I don't like about the punch stats is that, a jab is counted as a jab. So if you open up the fight and you jab and you knock your opponent out with a jab, a nice stiff, hard jab, it's still a jab. They don't call it a power shot, even though it just knocked the guy out. It's kind of strange. I like the stats after the fight as a discussion topic. The referee, Alan Huggins, was probably the worst refereeing job I've seen in a very long time. I mean, this guy, I think he was trying to keep up with the announcers because he didn't shut up either. He was barking at these guys. Every time they did something, he would yell at them, stop, holding. Max made a good point during this, because each of them at times were wrapping their opponent's glove, but they were actively punching and landing punches with their free hand, which, a lot of referees will tell you, good referees will tell you that they let them do that. They get an opportunity to punch their way out, fight their way out of the half clinch. This guy kept breaking them up every time. And he ended up taking a couple of points away from both of them. 1 point from Opetaia for holding, 1 point from Glanton for holding, 1 point from Glanton for hitting low blows. I mean, he over refereed. It was sad. It was sad to watch. And then my last point on this fight is that the crowd seems small. And, one of the things I'm always telling you guys, how I love the UK boxing scene, the European boxing scene in general. Chevy and I, we're in Europe a couple of times, and the crowds were always crazy, and you watch them on TV, and they always are. They're into it. They're cheering. They're singing. They're having a good time. It's a diversified crowd. Young people, old people, couples, single people, girls by themselves, guys by themselves. I mean, it's a diversified crowd. Here in the States, you don't see that as much. And they sit there. They're very quiet. They're very, very, very quiet. Maybe they get a little crazy if somebody gets knocked out or somebody's getting rocked pretty bad. They'll all of a sudden wake up. But aside from that, I'm talking about the European fans. They're singing and cheering every second of the round, even if it's not exciting. So some other fights real quick.